Hello, this is Amy Lambelt from North Shore Acupuncture Center, and this is one of another of the sessions of Perimenopausal in the Pandemic. So these are a group of sessions that are over 3 weeks long, where we're talking about different aspects of perimenopause and celebrating some of the positive things of perimenopause, but also talking about what we can do to control some of the negative symptoms that some of us experience, depending on our life choices and heredity and other things. So today we have a very big topic that we could talk about for years and never complete. So we won't be able to cover everything, but I have Marcy Kirschenbaum on, and she's a certified clinical nutritionist and the founder of Enhanced Nutrition. And she's going to help just answer some of our questions about nutrition and how our nutrition impacts our experience in perimenopause. So, Marcy, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I always love having my conversations with you, Amy.
Yeah. So if you guys have questions, please post those in the comments, and I will incorporate those into the conversation as it makes sense. If you watch this after the Facebook Live is complete, still post questions and we'll see if we can get responses to you. Nutrition is a hard one. We were just talking about this because it really depends on you individually. There's not a broad answer that works for everyone. And that's why a lot of times we need to go to a nutritionist or at a minimum, talk to your doctor. All right, Marcy, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you can't hear the large truck going by. I wanted to know if we could just dive in and talk about, first of all, are there certain foods that we should avoid or limit because those are going to aggravate things like hot flashes or vaginal dryness or brain fog, all of those things that can negatively impact us?
Absolutely. I mean, when we look at, we always go towards the basics, and every time you and I talk, we kind of get to, well, we want to take out the inflammatory foods, and we want to take out foods that cause an individual inflammation, which is something that we get into, like what Amy just said, very personalized. What contributes to your inflammation may not contribute to my inflammation. But hot flashes are more complex and not just food based, whereas more towards the brain fog, when we're looking at mood, anxiety, a lot of that can definitely be very impacted by food. So, what food do you want to eliminate? Well, we want to eliminate the processed foods, the fast foods, the refined foods. You want to make sure you're getting plenty of your vegetables, your leafy greens. There's a lot of foods that we look at, just like even with soy. That's a good one. We'll talk about that probably in a little bit, because for some it's very inflammatory, and for others it can sometimes help with some of the perimenopausal or menopausal symptoms. It depends how you use that. But it's really cleaning up the diet, eating whole foods that your body really recognizes. As I always say, food is information. We want to give our body the information that it knows what to do with. That's positive information, good things.
Yeah.
If you want to get into more specifics of which foods, because there's different categories of foods that we look at that can be helpful. I mentioned like leafy greens; those are important. Cruciferous vegetables, those are really important. Those are going to be cauliflower, broccoli, kale, bok choy, cabbage.
Brussels sprouts. You can't forget the best one.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And those help with your detox system. And a lot of times with any hormonal issues, we want to make sure that our detox system is working well. And the way and this gets really, we can get into the nitty gritty of the biochemistry of our bodies, but we detox our estrogen in the same pathways. Let's say caffeine is detoxed in the same pathway. So often getting off of coffee, or if they're doing any high caffeinated drinks or massive amounts of chocolate, let's say that could be a lot of caffeine, then that can impact your ability to detox your hormones, and you can have the symptoms aggravated by that.
Yeah, I definitely have clients that say they notice their glass of red wine will instantly trigger a hot flash.
And
Or that's not caffeine, but alcohol.
it's going to be because of the sugars, and it impacts the cortisol, and we have this whole other adrenal um, hypothalamus. I can say this today, and whole kind of triangle of what impacts what. And when you look at your insulin, you look at your cortisol, you look at your hormones, they all influence each other. And as we're going through perimenopause, as we reach that, we're going to notice that we have certain triggers. That stress is a big one. I know that if I could say, oh, a hot flash is going to come when something happened and I just feel my stress level pop or that cortisol pop, and boom, I'm going to have a hot flash. And that's really common to see that. And there's things that you can do. Obviously, diet helps, and there's some other types of supplements that dampen that response, but they're different for everybody, and sometimes it takes experimenting to figure out what works and what doesn't, how your body responds. And sometimes things work for a little bit, then they stop. And it's almost like the body says, okay, I kind of used this. I know how to work around it. And you've got to sometimes switch things off. Sometimes dosage needs to change. So you want to be listening to your body and paying attention. One of the things I have my clients do is, like, over a 2-week period, is every time you have a hot flash, what were you doing? What were you eating? Kind of keep record of that, and you'll start finding your connections.
Yeah, that's great advice. I know for me, if I have too much sugar, that will definitely make brain fog worse. One of the things I notice.
Well, and could be a whole nother can of worms that we're looking at, because of what sugar does to us and what it could be contributing to, what it could be feeding in the gut, can also contribute to that brain fog. Yes, absolutely. I know a lot of people will say if they eat too much sugar, they can get moody.
Yeah.
Or you can end up with a hypoglycemic crash, or you could just feel really moody with that. It doesn't give you that continual good, happy feeling.
Yeah. So I also heard that your glucose level can impact hot flashes as well, and not having a steady blood sugar level.
Absolutely. That combines with the cortisol and how our hormones respond, because our cortisol is made by our adrenal glands. And our adrenal glands, our cortisol is our fight or flight hormone, and it also helps with inflammation. So there's a lot that it's doing. But when our hormone levels from our, like the ovaries, when that starts to quiet down, we're making more through the adrenals. We also have a whole cascade of how the hormones are produced in our body. And if we are, for instance, stressed, or when we have sugar, it causes more inflammation. It brings our cortisol level up, and we have a piece with the cortisol, the glucose, and the insulin that goes together. And we also will see, and then we have stress. Those all kind of impact those pieces. But if we have so much of that going on, the precursors to the cortisol actually are also the precursors to making our estrogen or progesterone, and it gets diverted, and we end up making more cortisol. So your body is always trying to find a balance and take care of you for what you need. So if you help your body by eating well, you're going to see that it's easier to balance. Another piece kind of in that whole thing is, as we go through menopause, or once we hit menopause, is women complain about getting the fat around their middle.
Mm-hmm.
And we see this and we end up getting, it's like, what's causing that? Where's that all coming from? And it has to do with the cortisol and the insulin and the glucose, because insulin's a fat storage hormone. And if we don't balance our insulin and our glucose, we end up storing more. And we also are making less estrogen, less progesterone. When if our estrogen progesterone ratio is off, we end up storing fat. So we have like an estrogen dominance. If we have that, even as you're going through menopause or perimenopause, we can see that our estrogen level, if it's just not in balance with our progesterone, if the progesterone is too low, we don't sleep, we don't, we gain the weight, we have all this imbalance going on. We can't figure out what's going on because we feel like we have no hormones.
Yeah. So you already talked about some of the foods we can eat, the leafy greens, the cruciferous vegetables to help balance. And you talked about soy and how soy can be really helpful for some people and not others. Yams are another thing that sometimes I hear people talking about. So what are the foods that I should try to eat more of? And
So it's really helpful to know where your hormones are, so you know what direction you want to go, because we have all these estrogen mimickers, not only from food that help, that can be positive with our hormonal balance, but we also are getting them from our environment in terms of exposure to plastics and toxins. And that can actually cause, that causes a hormonal imbalance. So for some people, once you get your hormones tested, and it's not as simple as just doing a one-time blood test, because that's a point in time. There's a test called the Dutch test, which is
what was that again?
it's called the Dutch test,
Dutch
DUT,
test. Okay.
and it's a dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. That's the acronym, and oh, it's really easy to do. Is because it's just really using these strips with your urine and using the metabolites over a 24-hour period. There's a whole protocol of how you do this. And you then find out where's your estrogen and the different types of estrogens and your progesterone and your cortisol. There's all this information to see what's your balance, what are your ratios. Once you know that, you can then say, okay, I see that I am maybe estrogen dominant. So I want to be careful with the soy. I want to be careful with some of these other foods that might bring that estrogen level up. Flax seeds can be one. For some people, they can be really helpful, and for others, it can be so.
So if someone wants to do the Dutch test, as a nutritionist, the best person to connect with?
I can do work with people on that. If I also say, because I'm a nutritionist, not a doctor, I don't address the hormone. If someone says, "Oh, well, I really would like to do a hormone replacement," obviously that's a doctor. I do have referrals that I send people to if they need to get into any of the more specifics. But it gives us a great baseline to understand what can be done, and especially for those people that want to try to do things as naturally as possible.
Yeah. I know people also talk about vitamin C with bioflavonoids, vitamin E with selenium. Um, should we be eating more foods with those things?
Well, all the bioflavonoids, the polyphenols, they all have benefits for us. Now, vitamin C is important because it supports our adrenal glands. And then we get back into the cortisol piece. So, yes, getting vitamin C is going to be really important. The combination of the more colorful fruits and vegetables, the more colors you get, the different types you get, you're going to then broaden all the nutrients that you will be getting, and get that lovely balance that we're looking for, because we don't know what we're missing in terms of those little details. And just, yes, we can take supplements, they can be helpful. Number one is always trying to get this through your food and eating high quality foods.
Yeah, and just so people know, like I was someone who would remove the bioflavonoids as much as possible. So if I had a citrus fruit, I would peel off as much of the white peel as I could. But that white peel, you want to eat some of it because it has the bioflavonoids. Or in peppers, I would cut out the little white part that was there instead of eating it. So make sure you don't do that. Don't be as anal about trying to remove all of those good things.
Well, and it's even like you look at a lot of the root vegetables, there's, as long as you're getting organics, there's no pesticides on them, the skins are really good for you. When you peel things, you're losing a lot of the nutrients that the vegetables have gotten from the soil that we're sorely lacking in. In terms of vitamin E and selenium, those can be helpful. We have seen that for some people, it can reduce the incidence of some of the hot flashes or other perimenopausal symptoms. Selenium is really important for our detox system. And that's something that most of us need a lot of help with. We are exposed to so many chemicals and so much that we have no idea what we're being exposed to. As much as we try to eat healthy, make good choices, limit our plastics that we use, we are breathing it. We have so much, and it's stressing our detox system, which is our liver. And so we want to support that as much as possible. So we find that selenium, but you've got to be careful. Just starting taking a lot of selenium isn't good either. You've got to be careful not to overdose on that, really, and especially
Same
vitamin.
with vitamin E.
Right, I'd say vitamin E, vitamin D, vitamin A, these fat soluble vitamins, they aren't like vitamin C where they're just kind of coming out if you don't need a lot of it. But you also, with vitamin E, you don't want to get low quality. You can go to any drugstore and buy a vitamin E, and you don't know the source. There's actually 8 different forms of vitamin E, and getting a mix of forms are good, but there's something called tocopherols and tocotrienols, and they're different. And if you take them all together in a supplement, the tocopherols actually block some of the tocotrienols benefits. So it's understanding what you need, how to take it, what you're doing. With and even with vitamin C, you don't want to take too much because there is thought that if you're taking mega doses of vitamin C, that the antioxidant benefits can become more of an oxidant to you. So you want to make sure you're getting a good mix of your antioxidants also.
Yeah, I think it's an important point. I know this isn't related to perimenopause, but a lot of people are taking vitamin D right now because of concerns with COVID-19. And that's another one that is not good if you overdose. So anything like that, you need to be taking with your doctor or a nutritionist, not just on your own, figuring out your own dosages.
Right. And even when people say to me, well, what's the right dose? My question always is, what's your level?
Right.
Because I can't tell someone what their dose is unless we know. You can take a basic dose. Most people are pretty safe with that. But some people need a lot more to keep their levels up. And some people will take so much, like you're saying right now, they think more is better, but you have to be careful. Absolutely. That's a really good thing to point out to everybody.
Yes. Yep. We're not saying go take a bunch of vitamin E.
No, 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 no. Everything do it. Moderation is good, but knowing what you need and eating
So,
healthy foods.
what natural foods can we eat to get vitamin E and to get selenium?
You can get a lot of it. You can get that in nuts. Brazil nuts are known to have the highest level of selenium. And a lot of people, I said, when people look at me, Brazil nuts, what are those? I always say, in that mix, those big nuts that no one ever eats, those are the Brazil nuts.
And you only need like 3. They're so filling.
Exactly. You only really want 3. We don't know exactly how much selenium we'll be getting from that, but it's a great way to introduce some, as long as you're okay with nuts. And there's people for multiple reasons choose not to eat nuts. So it's really, I mean, Brazil nuts are the best. You'll see it in some of the other um, vegetables and other things, but we should get it if you're eating a well-balanced diet. You should be getting it. Vitamin E, we know that we get it in, like, walnuts are good. We go back to the nuts a lot. The fatty foods are good with that. You can get some in your avocado. You get some in. You get it in fatty fish are good. The healthy ones with omega-3s, you'll see that you get a lot of nutrients. And when I say the fatty fish, I'm looking at, I tend to steer away from tuna, which is the fatty fish, because tuna is a bigger fish and it tends to be higher in mercury. It's going to stress your detox system. It's going to can cause you to hold weight if you have too many toxins in you. So I steer away from tuna, but looking at wild salmon, anchovies, sardines, herring, those are all really high in omega-3s.
I love tuna.
I used to eat tuna a lot, and I just
Yeah,
rarely do, because unfortunately our oceans are dirty, and
yeah.
tuna is in the food chain. They're a fish that eats the fish of the fish of the fish, and so you want those that are smaller fish. Mahi mahi is another one you want to avoid because of the mercury.
We talked earlier about caffeine and how that can impact hot flashes, but I also want to point out to people that if you're struggling with vaginal dryness, caffeine is going to just make that worse because it dehydrates us. So trying to substitute with more water, decaffeinated drinks is important.
Absolutely.
And then lots of fruits and vegetables that contain water as well.
Correct. And that is really an important thing, because caffeine is like a little bit a diuretic. So that does dry you out more. Also, when you look at vaginal dryness, a lot of it can be from, of course, the depletion of not having enough estrogen. And there are some precursors, and there's some other, like, precursors to the estrogen that people use sometimes, and like DHEA. And there's some creams that women often use that can be very helpful to help them get through that time.
Yep. We actually have someone who's a certified sex therapist who will be joining us next week. And so that's definitely one of the things I'll talk about with her.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I focus as a nutritionist, obviously, on food, supplements, understanding nutrient imbalances that you may have, and really looking at everyone, going back to what you said at the very beginning, as an individual and being very unique. Just because we have the same symptoms doesn't mean we got there the same way. So what's causing, I mean, even with a hot flash, we can see some people that may have too much estrogen and people that don't have enough. But what's their progesterone level? What's all the other levels? That's why we can't look at one value and say, oh, there's the answer. It just doesn't work that easily. I wish it did, but we're much more complicated than that. So
that was helpful. It was helpful for me to see that, just to understand. In acupuncture, it's the same with hot flashes. There's different patterns that seem like they're completely different. Like one actually doesn't seem like a pattern that would cause heat, but it does cause hot flashes. So it's completely different treatments based on it. And that's the more estrogen dominant one that doesn't seem, from a Chinese medicine standpoint, it doesn't seem to me like that makes sense that it would create hot flashes, but it does.
Right. And going back to something, Amy, when your true love is sleep. And we see with people who, when women go into perimenopause, all of a sudden, I don't sleep well, I wake up. And trying to get good sleep is important. That helps with our cortisol, it helps with our insulin or sugar, and that with that abdominal weight gain that women get. But when they say, but I'm trying to sleep, I can't, often we'll see then that it's your progesterone that's really low. And because the progesterone is really important it's more calming, and it influences some of our other hormones to quiet us down. And when we find that balance, we begin to sleep again. Unfortunately, a lot of the medical method of addressing that is take an antidepressant. And that messes with the serotonin. And mostly, if you need that for other reasons, that's great. But you want to be careful and try other things first in order to get your progesterone level a little more balanced.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
and sleep is a big issue. We hear about all the time. Women wake up and I'm up for an hour or 2 hours in the night and I'm exhausted.
Yeah, so if you're struggling with sleep, there was another series that Marcy was a part of, and you can go to pandemicsleeptips.com and it will map you directly to the YouTube playlist with all of the videos. So you can hear Marcy talk about tips for nutrition and sleep, and there were other experts on as well. So that's a good resource if you're struggling with that.
Right. And but we didn't talk about the lack of progesterone at that point because that is a big one. And also, just if you're not having sleep issues, make sure you are getting sleep, because that is going to help with the other perimenopausal symptoms. And some people breeze through menopause, perimenopausal, no symptoms whatsoever, and others just suffer. And if you feel that you are about to start the perimenopausal symptoms, or you're about to go into that time, you really want to make sure that your detox system, that you're healthy, you're cleaned out as much as possible in terms of giving yourself the really clean food, getting rid of toxins, getting rid of the personal care items that are really toxic to us, because you will see that you may have more aggravated symptoms if you have just more chemicals around you. And some people don't because they're chemically sensitive and they tend to keep that out, but that means if they're chemically sensitive, their detox system isn't working so well.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, it was funny. I had a conversation with Queen. She's a life coach. She joined me on Monday, and she talked about how perimenopause is a time for a lot of us where our body is like, all right, like you're old enough. I'm tired of this nonsense. So no longer going to allow you. Maybe I let you get away with staying up late all night when you were young and acting a fool, but now you need to sleep. And maybe I let you eat McDonald's all the time and not really give the fuel that you needed, but no more of this. Like our body's kind of like, yeah, it's time to grow up.
I also tell people that we always say, but I used to be able to do it. It never bothered me. And what changed? Well, it's not that anything changed. It's just that your body says, you have worked me too hard and you're wearing me out. I cannot detox all this stuff you're throwing at me. I don't recognize it. And I just can't function like this anymore. You've overloaded me, kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, when do you push your body too hard? So the earlier you start making good choices for yourself, getting good exercise, sleep, eating good foods, taking care of your stress levels, meditating, the easier it should be for you.
Yeah. So yesterday we had a conversation about joint pain, and we didn't talk about nutrition related to that at all. But again, nutrition plays a part in any joint pain or joint stiffness that we have as well.
It's really important we get into what's causing the inflammation for you. It gets into gut issues, which most of this gets into gut issues, is trying to keep the gut healthy, make sure if your gut isn't healthy, finding that what's causing it and cleaning things up. And it's also can be if you do have inflammation, what are some of the little tricks you can sometimes do to quiet that inflammation?
All right. It looks like we're already at a half hour. So how can people work with you? And are you seeing people via telehealth right now and even going forward if someone is here from another part of the country?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, right now, that's all I've been doing is the telehealth, and it's worked out really well. But I do have a practice in Northbrook, Illinois. So once we open up again, I will be seeing people in person. But the telehealth has been a great option because I do see people elsewhere and some people that aren't mobile, and it's hard for them to get out. It's been a great way to work with them. And really everything works almost the same. A few metrics I can't get, but other than that, it's really nice to be able to see people that way. And you can reach me through my website, phone, any of that works. And
And your website again is Enhanced Nutrition.
enhancednutrition.net.
All right. Add that up here.
And it's and people always ask me, how long will it take? What does it look like? And you're special. So everyone, some people, I can really help them progress quickly, and other people it takes a little longer, it takes more detective work. Yeah. Some people we get into work, other people what we can figure out based off of the symptoms and what the clues are.
Yeah. So when Marcy works with people, she's looking at what foods to add, what eliminate based on you personally, like she said. So for what, for me, apples might cause inflammation. For you, it might be soy. So it could be completely different. And then just also giving you help as far as food preparation and interpreting supplements, where she was talking about the vitamin E. If you get all confused like I did about the two types and trying to figure out the right one to buy, she helps people with that, as well as lifestyle modifications. And she's not trying to make you into a clone of her. She's really looking at your lifestyle and making changes that work for you. So she does a lot of work around change management and understanding that that's different for each person and how to help you make changes that you can sustain.
Exactly. Thank you. Right. And I meet you where you are. And the expectations are really hearing what you're saying and what you're comfortable with, because the right way is what works for you. Yeah.
So. All right. Well, thank you very much. Again, if you have questions, make sure you put those in the comments and we'll see if we can get responses back to you. But you know how to reach Marcy, and you can follow her on Facebook there as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for doing this again.
Good seeing you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.